Paul here, and welcome to episode 3, where, as you will see, I am not on a motorbike, I'm sat at home. I thought I would spend this episode, after a few comments, talking about the equipment that I used, the audio, some of the software techniques and my file management, and how I actually put the videos together. So hopefully that will be interesting for you. If not, don't bother watching it, just skip to episode 4 when it comes out. Won't be too long. Cheers. Being my first vlog, I didn't want to go too mad and spend too much money on equipment that I might never use again. So just briefly, I've used a cheap DJI Mini drone. I bought an Insta 360 X4 camera, so that was the biggest outlay. I used an old Samsung S20 just for very quick recording. That was always clamped to my bike, and my Galaxy S24 phone that I'm using now to film me. For the trip, I primarily used my 360 camera. That was really useful. What I used in conjunction with that is something that it comes with called the invisible selfie stick. So quite clever if you don't know about these cameras. So it stitches the imagery each side, so you can't actually see the stick. I was pretty amazed by it when I first saw it. So it's a really cool thing because it films 360 degrees around, and you can go into the software after and you can choose which angle you want to display in the video. I did find that the file size on this camera was a nightmare, and it is a complete headache to work with. It may be my computer, but it is so laggy and it takes so long to take the film off and decide which angles to use. I suspect as I get better at it, I will use this a little more selectively. I even did towards the end of the trip, and I will eventually get an action camera. So this, I would suggest, is better for just slightly more unusual shots. So with the X4 camera and the invisible selfie stick, that generally just screwed into a clamp that came with it. This isn't the official clamp, actually. I've temporarily lost it. And then that just clamps onto your bike somewhere. So you can get all sorts of different angles and shots with that. And one thing I bought, which I didn't use much, but it was this little optional extra. They're pretty cheap. It's just a little tripod, but there's a mode on the 360 camera called bullet mode. And if you screw this camera to here, it kind of goes sideways and swings around like this. Just creates a matrix gimmicky effect. You won't have seen it on any of the episodes yet. I think I only used it twice. Other useful equipment, something as simple as that, just a Bluetooth remote button. That was really good just for the camera on my phone, just starting and stopping that various times. Speaking of the phone, quad lock phone case and a quad lock holder, so that made it quite easy on occasions to not just mount my phone behind the dashboard for the GPS on the bike, but also with this which I used, the clamp which I used the X4 with, I could interchange it with the quad lock, and then you'd have a lot more flexibility with using your phone in different positions, or indeed your second phone. Speaking of which, the second phone was really useful. I had that clamped to the side of the motorbike and just a quick double tap, and that allowed it to record. So that was good just for alternative shots to the X4 when I knew that I might want to put a slightly different angle on. And I moved this around the bike quite a bit too. So as the episodes go on, we'll see how well they all came out. Now the drone was really good. It's still fairly big file size, but I quite enjoyed using it when it worked. I did almost lose it on a couple of occasions, and it does take time to stop and set up, especially with the remote that I've got that uses the phone rather than the built-in screen. The drone was cool. I used that a little bit. And in terms of storage, I had a couple of SD cards. As I say, I found this at the storage up in a day, you could easily film 64 gigs. So I ended up getting 128 gigabyte spare card for that. I didn't bother with a spare battery. Some people recommend that, but it lasted a day, you know, if you just leave it on standby and you just tap it on and off. So yeah, I guess it's peace of mind if you've got the space. It's good to have a spare battery, but yeah, I didn't bother. I did have spare batteries for the drone. I actually found, even though I bought my tablet, my Microsoft Surface, I found that storage was getting more and more, you know, sort of 28 days away, and it was getting out of hand. And I found a lot of people who have the X4 camera use one of these little SanDisk hard drives. You can get 1, 2 or even 4 gigabyte versions of those. I think Itchy Boots, I think she says she has 2 4 gigabyte versions of these. I guess it's peace of mind that, you know, you're not going to run out of space. It's reliable and it's not going to eat up your hard drive. And yeah, it's a bit safer to store. You know, you can just keep it in your pocket or whatever, so you're not going to lose your footage. So yeah, I would be taking that next time. In terms of recording the audio for the trip, I used one of these Schuberth SC2s for the trip. I bought a new Schuberth E2 helmet, which I now don't have. They gave me headaches after a couple of hours of using them. If they don't give you headaches, they were good helmets, and these comm units integrate nicely. I know there are other helmets as well, aren't there, which you can connect to. So yeah, the comm unit into the helmet worked really well, potentially too well, because you might notice sometimes it almost sounds like I'm in a room and not on a motorbike. It was zero background noise. What I have learned since is that some of these action cameras, you can part record the sound of the motorbike as well. It'll take the recording through the microphone of the action camera. One camera I am going to buy is the Action Pro 2, Ace Pro 2, the Insta Ace Pro 2, which does this. So yes, I use that mainly for audio and just the microphone on my phone. But since then, I have bought one of these little DJI Mic Minis, which sound really good actually. So I would use that next time and find somewhere convenient to put it in the helmet. I think it's important to have a good microphone setup and to really test it first. Go out a good few times and make sure you can get the right settings and work out what works and what doesn't. One of the main challenges with the audio was switching the microphone on the unit between the phone and the X4, both of which you can connect the microphones with Bluetooth. You do need the mic. If you just try putting the fluffy kind of windproof detectors on the X4 and you're on the motorbike, it's rubbish. It's okay if you're just walking around on a fairly low wind environment. But no, you need to connect your comm system with Bluetooth to here. The problem comes is when you want to jump between your X4 and your action camera or your phone. For the phone, I had to go into Pro Video mode and then choose the microphone, select the Bluetooth microphone. And once it was connected, it worked well. But if I was listening to music, that would then throw the microphone off and turn it off. So there was a bit of messing around there. One thing I would say with the DJI Mic Mini is that it comes with a receiver. Now you can connect this straight via Bluetooth to the X4, to your phone. But the receiver is a bit more straightforward because you just plug it into your phone like I have now. You can't see it obviously, but it automatically selects it. So I don't have to go into Pro Video mode. It just works. I've not experimented on how that will work with that plugged in and on Bluetooth on this and whether you can use both of them at the same time. I'm not convinced you can, but again, all trial and error. As I briefly touched upon, including audio of the actual motorbike as well as you speaking does make a massive difference. Some of the shots you'll see on the video, I've actually had to pull motorbike noise away as a separate audio recording and overlay it because this was too good at eliminating it and it just didn't sound realistic like I was on a bike, even though I was. With the X4, it's got the automatic stabilisation. So if you imagine that is connected to the front of your bike and it's doing that as you're bouncing around, magically it comes out very, very smooth and it balances the horizon automatically, almost like there's a gyro spirit level in there or something, which actually is a bit of a pain because you don't get that first person view like you might want on a motorbike if you go around a corner. So I had to go in and edit that manually for each bend. It was that, or you can turn stabilisation off in post-production. But then when you turn the stabilisation off and you get the tilting, you also get the shaking up and down at the same time. So to me, it's worth the extra effort and turn it manually for each corner in the software. Yeah, it takes a long time. What would I do differently in terms of filming? I would definitely get an action camera, and I would get a chin mount, as many people do. I think my videos lack that first person, kind of as you're looking around, you know, sort of really getting that feeling of you're seeing what the rider's seeing. And that obviously goes for any sort of first point view video that you're doing. So yeah, I'll get an action camera for sure the next time. What else would I have? I would have a gimbal. More than anything, it keeps the camera steady like that. It's not that you get wobble with a normal phone or whatever, but it's hard to lock the horizon. So the gimbal's quite good for that, but it's all extra weight and extra space. So it's all a consideration, really. Yeah, I think I would take this gimbal. This is one of the smallest ones you can buy. So getting into the nitty gritty of things. So I put the large files from the X4 camera on my external hard drive, and I keep them there just to save my hard drive space on the computer. I then pull these into the Insta360 software, at which point I will individually sort of decide what I want this to do, this software. As I say, it's 360 degrees, so I can sort of choose a start point. You can sort of go along and decide, say you want it to go to here, and then you do another point, and then you want to turn it around, change the angle. And so basically you would create the video that you want to create, and then once you're happy with your raw 360 degree file, I will then export that as an MP4 file, which is much lower file size, and then I can get rid of that 360 degree Insta file. I usually do that once I've actually finished the episode completely. You could edit it in this, but I find it too clunky and it keeps breaking. Some people use Adobe Premiere for it. Apparently that works. But I open up CapCut, which is owned by TikTok, I believe. And CapCut is just a lot more stable. It's a lot quicker. And I import my videos and video assets into CapCut. For each camera, I have a different folder. So we've got audio. If it's just an audio recording, that's what I use for like the voiceovers and things like that in the episodes. Then we have my S24 pictures, my Insta360 pictures. If anything's been taken from YouTube, drone folder, just for my drone footage, and the S20 folder. So I know where everything roughly is. I can remember roughly where I filmed stuff. Once I've got all my assets, all my videos and audio together in different folders, I will then import them into a blank CapCut file, which has been sort of taken from an existing episode. So there's a lot of transitions and little bits and pieces in there, brand assets, they call them, and little sub-projects of like things like the intro video that I did, stuff like that you can reuse. And then I have these different folders in CapCut with the music, sound effects, voiceovers, my maps, my branding, and then I just have all the videos. And I start by pulling all that into the timeline, and then I start going through, putting it into some sort of order, not really knowing exactly what's there at this point, and hoping that something vaguely comprehensible will come from it. So the really slow bit is going through all the assets and all the audio here and just getting it right. The music as well, getting that right. In terms of audio, I use SoundForge, but you can use anything. You can even record live into CapCut, but I found it doesn't sound quite right for me. I actually connect my DJI mic to the computer. I was using one of these, a Zoom H4, but I found it records too well. You can hear everything in the background. My setup here isn't good enough to be able to use this. I find the DJI mics a little more muted and then it sounds a little better. So I record stuff into here and then I save it and import it into CapCut and then drag it into the timeline and then put the music over the top. Speaking of music, I listened to a lot of music on my way around on the trip, and I made some notes. I basically added the music I really liked to what I call just a biker's playlist. And I thought, well, I'll see if I can use that in the videos when I get back. And I contacted a few of the artists or recording labels, and some of them got back and said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. They were chuffed to have it in there. That's really cool. And then there's another little nifty tip. If you do use CapCut, maybe Premiere has it, maybe DaVinci Resolve is another one people use, but you can get the audio, and then you can right click and go to separate audio, and you can just remove parts of the song. So some of the music you'll hear in episode 2, like the guitar, there's just an acoustic guitar song playing, and that's actually the guitar being lifted out the rest of the song. I've removed the lyrics, everything, so it makes it better to put the video over the top, and it means that I can talk over the top without singing being done over the top of that, if that sort of makes sense. So there's loads of stuff you can do with that. And speaking of AI, I mean, you know, you can remove the backgrounds, which I did at the beginning of episode 2. You can change the voices, as you know, see me getting carried away at the end with the next time. And, you know, that's me as a werewolf in a cave. You know, you can do whatever you like. And you can obviously AI your face and make yourself look younger and all that stuff as well, as you'll see in episode 2. You can get carried away. But yeah, some of it's pretty genuine and quite useful. And I think I'm only just scratching the surface with the AI stuff that can be done. Obviously, I use a bit of Photoshop. I used to be a graphic designer, so I'm quite lucky that I kind of know how that works. Not that it's particularly technical, but it's useful to know a little bit about Photoshop, because not just for things like the title, cover, but for things like if you're putting logos in and you want to sort of use those for the transitions, you need high-res logos, that sort of stuff. Photoshop, a little bit of Illustrator, not essential, but useful. So once you've got all your stuff together and you know, you're relatively happy with the order, you've got your title sequence in there, your maps all sorted, a lot of work later, and you've got your timeline here, then it's just a case of editing it, going through, seeing if you can do anything better, getting the sound right. There'll be little bits where it's just not quite right. In my case, try and remove some transitions, something I'm very mindful I need to go easy on because I put too many transitions in. So yeah, using a little bit of restraint and making it look nice and professional, which is something I still need to do. I've only done 2. So yeah, and obviously putting in the credits for the song as well. I like to do that. And once you're all good to go, and you are happy with everything, then I will do my first export up here. A bit like in the Insta 360, well, it's exactly the same as the Insta 360. I'll export it to an MP4 file, and then I will shut everything off, sit back and watch it. And then I'll make a list with a little notepad of all the things at what time of the video, which I think need changing or just aren't quite right when you just sit back and watch it. And then I'll go through and usually take 3 or 4 sort of revisions to do that. And then I'll ask my wife to come and have a look, and she might spot a spelling mistake or something like that. And once that is done and everything is in place and it all seems to be working well, time to add it to YouTube and get it up there. And there we go. All done. Process finished. In terms of the challenges involved, I think the biggest challenge with doing these videos is the amount of time it takes, especially for the Insta 360x4 camera, and getting all that in and then exporting that. It's really, really time consuming. I actually quite enjoyed the stopping and the starting and filming and that sort of side of it. I quite enjoy making the videos, but you just got to have a bit of time to do it. You've got to enjoy doing it. Other challenges, I mean, the weather wasn't too bad, so that was okay. I mean, obviously, with something like the Insta, if you get a few drops of water on your camera, then film is a write-off. As well as the file sizes and the time it takes to process the videos, it was the audio and getting the microphone right between the cameras and the sound right. I might even consider using 2 different microphones next time, so they're both always working for the individual cameras. Or I just need to plan what I'm going to film better next time. So hopefully you found that useful. I'd love to kind of hear any tips that you guys have got to improve on my workflow, because I feel there's obviously is room for improvement. As I say, I've not done this very long. So yeah, do add some comments and all that stuff. Thanks for watching this video and bearing with me, and I will see you in Portugal in episode 4, and hopefully we'll make a bit of progress from there on.
Like, comment, share, subscribe.